There's this kind of unwritten rule about personal space when it comes to how we communicate with each other. Like, if someone knocks on your front door, you have a choice, right?
Right, yeah. You can look through the peephole.
Exactly. You look and you decide to either open it or, just pretend you aren't home. There's an established social contract there.
Yeah, the knock is basically the request for your attention. It gives you control over the whole interaction, allowing you to opt in or, well, opt out of that conversation before it even really begins.
But imagine if someone just bypassed the front door entirely. Like, they didn't knock. They just somehow walked right into your kitchen and left a sticky note on your refrigerator asking you to call them.
Oh, wow. You'd feel completely violated.
Right. It's incredibly intrusive because it skipped the gatekeeper. And today, we are looking at the exact digital equivalent of that uninvited sticky note. So, welcome to today's deep dive into the highly controversial world of ringless voicemail in dealership marketing.
It's a wild topic.
It really is. We have a huge stack of sources detailing how dealerships use this technology, why vendors push it so aggressively, and how customers actually react when these messages just magically land on their phones.
It really serves as this fascinating case study in the tension between, marketing efficiency and actual customer experience. We get to look at what happens when businesses prioritize the illusion of scale over the reality of human connection.
Yeah, so the mission for our deep dive today is to decode this. We are going to figure out whether this tool is a genuine marketing innovation or if it's just an automated scam that dealerships keep falling for month after month.
I think the answer is going to surprise some people.
I think so too. Brought to you by DeskReadyLeads.com. If your dealership is tired of leads with no context, no intent, and no real reason to buy, it may be time for a different approach. Visit DeskReadyLeads.com to see how we can help your dealership generate better conversations with buyers who actually have a reason to engage.
That's a great point about better conversations.
Yeah, coming out of that focus on generating better conversations, it is easy to see how the pitch for ringless voicemail is incredibly alluring. Okay, let's unpack this. What exactly is this technology doing? Because on paper, I can completely understand why a general manager or a marketing director at a dealership would be salivating over the concept.
Oh, absolutely. The pitch is very compelling.
Right. A vendor walks in and says, hey, give us your database pass customers, orphan owners, people with leases ending, and we will blast thousands of pre-recorded voicemails directly into their inboxes.
Yeah.
And the kicker is that the phone never even rings.
Zero friction on the outgoing side.
Yeah. No salesperson has to sit there dialing, and no customer picks up angry.
Well, looking at the operational pain points of a modern dealership really explains why this sounds like a silver bullet. Dealerships constantly struggle with activity volume.
You just can't make enough calls.
Exactly. The Business Development Center, or BDC, is often overwhelmed with inbound leads. Plus, sales floors have notorious turnover rates. So a customer's original salesperson might have left the company months ago.
Which turns that customer into an orphan owner.
Right. On top of that, salespeople generally just do not make enough outbound calls. And traditional methods, direct mail campaigns, are incredibly expensive to print and ship, and email open rates are notoriously weak.
You're lucky to get, a 10% open rate on a good day?
If you're very lucky. So you have these massive customer relationship management databases sitting there full of thousands of people who just haven't been contacted in any meaningful way in years.
So the vendor swoops in and presents this push-button solution.
Right.
They promise to contact 10,000 people instantly.
And it costs a fraction of a traditional direct mailer. Vendors pitch it as a way to create measurable activity. They hand the general manager this slick report at the end of the month showing, thousands of successful drops, hundreds of callbacks, and maybe a few appointments.
It looked like pure productivity.
It does. It creates this very seductive illusion of massive, highly efficient scale. They sell it as a tool that's perfect for equity mining, lease pull-ahead programs, service specials, or pushing aged inventory off the lot.
But looking at the mechanics of this, I have to question the fundamental premise. Like, if the customer didn't ask for the voicemail and the message being dropped is totally generic, something like, we want to buy your vehicle or call us before the offer expires, this just seems like the audio equivalent of a digital door hanger stuffed into someone's personal device.
What's fascinating here is how the vendor pitch completely misjudges consumer psychology. They sell this technology to dealerships on the idea that it is, quote-unquote, non-intrusive.
Non-intrusive, how so?
Well, the core argument is that because the phone did not literally ring and interrupt the customer's family dinner, it is somehow a polite way to market.
That's just crazy.
It is. That logic completely misunderstands how people interact with their smartphones today.
Yeah, your phone is basically an extension of your body at this point.
Exactly. A voicemail notification is still an interruption. It vibrates in your pocket or it pops up on your screen, demanding your attention. When a consumer sees a voicemail alert, but their phone never registered a missed call, their immediate reaction is suspicion.
Right, they feel like someone just snuck through a side door.
They absolutely do.
Which brings us to the most insidious part of the vendor pitch found in these sources. The vendors actually tell dealerships, your customers will think they missed a personal call from the store.
Yeah, that's a direct quote from a lot of these pitches.
I mean, tricking your customer seems like a terrible way to start a relationship. You are literally kicking off a potential $30,000 or $40,000 financial transaction with a manufactured lie.
We can label that manufactured confusion. The crucial error dealerships make here is assuming the consumer is gullible. Customers aren't stupid.
No, they really aren't.
They notice the missing ring in their call log. They listen to the message and immediately recognize the canned, generic tone of the recording. They realize they have just been blasted by an automated system.
Right. If I get a message that says, hey, this is Jason at the dealership. We are looking for vehicles like yours. I know Jason didn't just sit down, think of me specifically, pull my file, and dial my number.
No, he pushed a button to reach 4,000 people at once.
Yeah, it relies entirely on fake familiarity.
And fake familiarity destroys trust instantly. Contrast that generic blast with what real relevance actually looks like. True personalization is highly contextual, and it requires actual effort.
What does it sound like in practice?
Well, if Jason actually left a voicemail saying, you bought your 2021 Ram 1500 from us 3 years ago, we have a customer looking for similar trucks, and based on current inventory, it may be worth seeing if trading now lowers your payment or gets you out before mileage becomes an issue.
Wow, okay, that's completely different.
Right. That requires digging into the CRM, segmenting the list, and actually understanding the customer's unique position.
That changes the entire dynamic. Now, I know Jason is looking at my specific file, not just pulling my name from a giant spreadsheet. He knows what I drive, he knows when I bought it, and he is giving me a logical, mathematically sound reason why this matters to me right now.
But doing that requires a clean database and a dedicated strategy. Ringless voicemail is often used as a lazy shortcut to bypass all that hard work.
Yeah, they just want the quick win.
Exactly. And when a dealership treats its customer database like a rented spam list, there's a massive hidden brand damage cost that never shows up on the vendor's monthly performance report.
Let's explore that brand damage, because it feels like a compounding problem.
It is. Once a customer labels your store as spammy in their mind, the relationship is severely damaged. That one bad ringless voicemail might not seem like a big deal to a general manager in isolation.
Just one message, right? What's the harm?
But you combine it with all the other automated noise, the generic emails, irrelevant text messages, retargeting ads following them around the internet, and the customer just tunes the dealership out completely.
They just put up a wall.
Your future emails go straight to the promo tab or the spam folder. Your text messages feel suspicious. The dealership stops being a trusted local business and just becomes another digital annoyance they have to swipe away.
It sounds like a dealership paying money to actively teach their customers to ignore them.
You are literally training your audience to view your communications as irrelevant noise.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. It is not just a customer service issue. This fake missed call strategy has actually triggered major federal legal consequences.
Oh, the legal side of this is a minefield. For years, the vendors of ringless voicemail hid behind a very specific technological loophole. The defense they used was entirely literal.
How literal are we talking?
They argued that because they were depositing the audio file directly onto the carrier's voicemail server, bypassing the mobile switching center that triggers the handset to actually ring no call, was ever technically placed to the consumer's device.
That sounds like the defense a kid uses when they hold their finger an inch from your face and say, I'm not touching you.
It's exactly that. It is a purely semantic argument based on a technicality. But in 2022, the FCC issued a declaratory ruling that effectively closed that loophole.
What did they decide?
They determined that ringless voicemails to wireless phones absolutely are subject to the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, known as the PCPA.
And the TCPA is not something any business wants to mess with. The fines can be astronomical, sometimes reaching thousands of dollars per single violation.
Oh, a poorly executed campaign can be a business-ending event in the worst cases.
Hmm.
The FCC's reasoning was incredibly logical when you break it
So
down.
they didn't buy the "we didn't ring the phone" excuse.
Not at all. They pointed out that ringless voicemail still uses the consumer's wireless number to route the message, and it relies on a voicemail notification alert sent over the cellular network to make the consumer retrieve it.
So the network was still used.
Exactly. In the eyes of the FCC, generating that notification means the consumer's network was utilized and their privacy was interrupted. Just because the handset didn't ring doesn't mean the consumer wasn't contacted. It is legally classified as a call made using an artificial or pre-recorded voice.
So what does that actually mean for the dealership relying on this technology today?
Consent is absolutely paramount. Under TCPA rules, non-emergency pre-recorded calls to wireless numbers generally require prior consent.
Any kind of consent.
Well, if the message is classified as marketing or telemarketing, it requires prior express written consent. A dealer cannot just buy a vendor service, hand over a list of 10,000 random numbers from a third-party lead provider, and blast away.
That sounds incredibly risky.
They need to know the origin of that list, what specific type of consent exists for every single number, whether the message crosses the line into marketing, and what the automated opt-out process looks like.
Yeah, a $500 marketing campaign is absolutely not worth a TCPA headache. You are risking federal fines for a tactic that inherently annoys the very people you're trying to sell a car to.
But dealerships keep doing it because vendors keep showing up with reports boasting about high callback numbers. The allure of the ringing phone overrides the compliance risk in many showrooms.
But even if a dealership is willing to risk a federal fine just to get the phone ringing, they run into a completely different wall. Like, what happens when the customer actually calls back? This brings us to the callback lottery.
This is where the entire sales process usually breaks down completely. The fundamental flaw begins with the difference between data and demand.
Data versus demand. Break down how vendors confuse those two concepts.
Vendors build these massive campaigns on broad algorithmic assumptions. They look at a dealership's database and say, okay, these 500 customers have equity in their vehicles based on current trade values, or these 500 customers have leases maturing in the next 6 months.
Which is good to know, sure.
But that information is just data. The vendor assumes that this data automatically equals a sales opportunity. The reality is that the customer hasn't raised their hand.
They aren't actively shopping.
Exactly. A customer might have $10,000 in equity, but absolutely love their car, have no desire to take on a higher interest rate, and have zero intent to trade it in.
The customer hasn't expressed any problem they need solved.
Ah.
It is just a data-based interruption trying to force a transaction.
And yet, the vendor blasts out 10,000 voicemails, comes back to the general manager a week later, and says, look at this ROI. We delivered 9,200 drops, and you got 137 callbacks. The campaign is a massive success. They are selling motion as momentum.
Motion as momentum is a dangerous metric because activity does not equal productivity.
Inbound calls are not automatically opportunities, and callbacks are certainly not car deals. Let's look at why people actually call back a ringless voicemail.
Because I imagine it's not to buy a car.
A small percentage might be curious. A much larger percentage calls back because they are incredibly annoyed. Many think something is wrong with their vehicle's financing account or their service record.
Oh, panic calling.
Yes. Often, the voicemail was so intentionally vague, they have to call just to figure out who is contacting them. A significant portion of those 137 callbacks are just people screaming to be taken off the list.
The source material paints a vivid, almost painful picture of what happens on the showroom floor when these calls start rolling in. Let's look at the Mike from ABC Motors scenario to see the internal breakdown.
This is a classic example.
Right. Imagine I am the consumer.
Wow.
I get a vague voicemail on my phone that says, hi, this is Mike from ABC Motors. We've been trying to reach you about your vehicle. We might be able to get you into a newer model with a lower payment. Call us today.
It relies on a classic generic hook designed to manufacture urgency.
So I am confused, maybe a little anxious, because I don't know what they mean by trying to reach me. I call the number back. Let's see how the salesperson handles this. Ring, ring? Yeah, someone named Mike called me and said you wanted my car.
The salesperson on the desk answers, completely unaware of the marketing blast. Thank you for calling ABC Motors. Let me look you up in the system. What are you driving currently?
I don't know, Mike just left a voicemail saying you had a lower payment for me.
The salesperson is now scrambling in the CRM, trying to find a note that doesn't exist.
Huh.
Okay, well, let me get some information from you to see what Mike was looking at.
That is a complete failure of the customer journey from the very first hello.
Total failure.
As the customer, I feel like the dealership initiated this interaction, and now the person on the phone has no idea who I am or why they bothered me. The salesperson has been completely blindsided. They have no idea what list I was on, what vehicle I own, or what vague promise the marketing department's vendor just made.
And the salesperson is forced to clean up a mess they didn't create. Because the vendor blasted the list outside of the normal CRM workflow, there is no customer note, no specific BDC script tied to the campaign, and no actual appraisal data tied to the trade message.
It's chaos.
The internal communication gap makes the entire dealership look incompetent.
The customer is annoyed, the salesperson is frustrated, and the general manager is sitting there looking at a report that claims the marketing was a success. How does anyone consider this a legitimate lead strategy instead of just a mess wrapped in a delivery report?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it forces us to ask if the technology itself is entirely useless. Should dealerships just ban ringless voicemail completely from their marketing mix?
Should they?
The technology itself isn't inherently evil, it is merely a communication tool. The problem lies entirely in how the tool is being wielded by lazy marketers. Ringless voicemail can work, but it requires a complete paradigm shift away from mass blasts. It has to be used in very narrow, highly specific situations.
What does wielding it correctly look like? Give us some examples of using this as a legitimate tool.
It is only effective when it relies on an existing legitimate relationship, and it operates as merely one contextual touchpoint in a much larger, well-thought-out follow-up strategy.
So, not a random list buy.
Exactly. For example, using it to contact a list of previous buyers whose leases are maturing in exactly 90 days. Or reaching out regarding an open critical safety recall for a specific make and model that your service department handles.
Things the customer actually needs to know about.
Right. It can also be used effectively for providing a personalized update on a factory sold order that a customer has been waiting months to receive.
So what does this all mean for the execution of the message? It means the audio has to have genuine utility for the person receiving it. The sources provide a brilliant formula for this. They argue a useful voicemail must quickly answer 3 specific questions for the listener.
The 3 questions are crucial.
Number 1, why are you contacting me? Number 2, why does this matter right now? And number 3, what should I do next?
That framework cuts through the noise perfectly. Bad campaigns fail because they skip the first 2 questions entirely and jump straight to the third. They just demand, call us today.
Demanding a callback without context assumes the customer cares about the dealership's monthly sales quota. That is not the consumer's problem.
No. Providing context is the only way to earn the callback. Contrast a bad blast that just says, big sale this weekend, come on down, with a proper context-based outreach.
What does the proper one sound like?
A strong ethical message says, we are looking for customers who want to lower their payment, get out of a high-rate loan, or trade before their vehicle loses more value based on this month's market adjustment.
That provides a clear, rational reason. If I'm sitting on a terrible interest rate, suddenly I have a reason to engage. I understand exactly why the dealership is reaching out to me and why it might benefit me to listen.
Dealership marketing only works when the customer understands the mutual benefit. Without the reason, the voicemail is just digital pollution. The source text makes a great analogy here. Ringless voicemail should be treated like a scalpel, not a leaf blower.
A scalpel, not a leaf blower. Most vendors are selling leaf blowers, just blasting noise across the entire neighborhood and hoping a few leaves end up in the right pile.
And blowing all the dirt onto the customer's driveway in the process, leaving the sales team to sweep it up.
To summarize our deep dives today, ringless voicemail is not a magic wand. It is not a cure for poor CRM hygiene, it won't fix bad messaging, and it certainly won't save a lazy sales process. It is vastly overrated as a mass marketing tactic because it creates the illusion of personal outreach without any of the actual substance.
And whether you are a consumer who is just exhausted by a constantly vibrating phone that only leads to canned sales pitches, or you're a business owner desperately looking for marketing shortcuts, the core takeaway remains the same. People do not want another interruption in their day. They want a relevant reason to respond. The medium you use matters far less than the message you are delivering.
Which is a powerful lesson for any business relying on automation.
This raises an important question, though, one that builds on everything we've analyzed today regarding consumer trust.
Oh, I'm curious to hear where this goes. What is the question?
Well, we've spent a lot of time discussing how consumers easily recognize the canned tone of these recordings. It is what triggers their suspicion. But as AI voice generation becomes completely indistinguishable from real human speech, we are entering an era where these automated drops won't just sound like generic robotic recordings.
Oh, wow. That changes the entire landscape of manufactured confusion.
It really does. They will sound exactly like a local salesperson. The AI will know your name, it will seamlessly weave in local slang or geography, and it will literally pause to breathe or use filler words like and to mimic authentic human imperfection. So how will our definition of a spam call change when the voice waiting in our inbox sounds undeniably, terrifyingly authentic?
That is a wild thought to leave on. If the sticky note on the fridge is written perfectly in your best friend's handwriting, it is still an invasion of your personal space, but it becomes infinitely harder to spot the trespasser. Thank you all for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, be careful who you let into your digital living room.